Hi everyone, I'm Aideen and welcome to Playful Pathways. Today I am answering one of your help me questions. This one comes from James, who writes, "My 3-year-old has recently started repeating everything they hear. Unfortunately, some of the things they're repeating are rude words. My wife and I try to mind our language, but have to admit that the odd swear word does sneak out at times. How can we teach our child that these are not nice words and stop them from repeating them?" Thank you very much for your question, James. It's such a wonderful thing, isn't it, when your child starts learning to talk and every day they're coming out with all these wonderful new words until they start coming out with swear words. And it's always when you're in a public place or when you're on a play date with that perfect family. But don't worry, it has happened to the best of us, and today I'm going to give you a few suggestions that will help you through it. As you said in your question, James, your child is going through a stage at the moment where they're repeating everything that they hear. So it's totally to be expected that they're going to be repeating the words that they hear the most often, but they're also going to be repeating the words that seem the most interesting. So these are going to be words that are delivered with animation or energy, or the words that when they say them, they get the biggest reaction. To guide my suggestions to you, we're going to have a look at the 6 roots of strong parent-child relationships, and we're going to focus in particularly on 3 of them. We're going to look at consistency, at tuning in, and my favorite, playfulness. So let's have a look at consistency first. This really is about forming some new habits. So being really mindful of the words that you're using and how you're using them. So if you have a couple of expressive words that you use in trying times, then think about replacing them with other things. So you might say fiddlesticks and sugar instead of the words that you used before. Now, you will not get this right the first few times. You're going to have to practice this, and it'll take a while, but it is possible to get yourself into a new habit in this way. So the next thing we're going to have a look at is tuning in. If you want some clues, a bit of an insight into where your child has picked up these words or why they're continuing to say them, then you'll probably pick them up by tuning into their expression when they're saying these words. If they're pretty context specific, then it's probably just that they have picked it up from yourself or from other adults and seeing them in use in the moment. But if you notice that your child is using these words and then looking for a response from the people around, then it's probably that they've had a big reaction in the past and they want to try and see if they can get it again. For both of these cases, then, the best advice, especially with the little ones, is actually just to ignore it. And, once those words have faded out of use in the home and they're not getting a response from using them, then they'll probably just stop using them altogether. Bear in mind, it's really worth bearing in mind that for children who are, 5 and under, they're using these words for the first time. Most of the time they don't know what they mean. These words only really take on meaning based on how we respond to them. So if your child is old enough to engage in a conversation, then it's probably worth asking them, "I wonder where you heard that word from, and what do you think that word might mean?" And talking to them about it, because most of the time children don't want to say things that are rude or unkind or insensitive, and as soon as they have that knowledge, they will stop using that word. So try not to shame them, but rather engage in a conversation and educate them about why that may not be appropriate. Moving on to playfulness. Here is a suggestion, a bit of a get out of jail free card that you can keep up your sleeve for those moments when you have accidentally let a swear word slip. What you do is that straight after you say the rude word, the word you weren't supposed to say, you can immediately say 5 or 6 totally random words in a very energetic way, in the hope that by the time you get to the end, you've totally bamboozled your child with all of these words and they have forgotten the word that you started out saying in the beginning. It might look a little bit like this. "Oh, shit. Shirt sleeves, question mark, whisper, examination, turtle." or something like that. This is a little tip that you can also share with other people in your child's life who may not be used to being around children, like aunts or uncles or cousins or friends, and may often or occasionally fall into the trap of saying words that they shouldn't say. Okay, so let me summarize the points that I have given you. Number one, be mindful of your language. Try to create some new habits or use some alternative words that you can put into your vocabulary rather than the rude words or the words that you shouldn't be saying. Number two, if your child is just experimenting with new words or they're saying things to get a reaction, just try and ignore it. Number three, if your child is old enough, then have a conversation about why these words aren't appropriate. But be aware that your children will not accept a double standard. They will not be happy if there are a set of words that you are allowed to use and they are not allowed to use. And number four, try to act quickly when you accidentally said a rude word. You might just get away with it. Thank you very much to James for today's question. If you'd like to see more of my videos, then make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you've got a question that you'd like me to answer, then head to my Patreon page, where patrons who are part of the Playful Pathways community can submit their questions directly to me. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.